Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about the best recordings of Rachmaninoff's First Symphony. Number one, the least popular, the one people don't know very well at all. And that to me is a terrible pity because, quite frankly, it is my favorite Rachmaninoff symphony, and I think it's the best one he wrote for a lot of reasons, which we'll go into. But first, a little housekeeping. I don't know if this has driven you as crazy as it's driven me, because I have to write this stuff for years, but Rachmaninoff used to spell his name with a V, and now we're back to two F's, which is the way at the end, which is the way he actually spelled it, supposedly, in English when he first, started spelling his name using Western alphabet. I don't know. I don't care. It drives me nuts. And now, though, we are back to two F's from V. I grew up doing V. So if you look at his name in Cyrillic, which I am putting down here, down there it is, I hope you can see it, you can see that that little B thing at the end of his last name is actually a V. That would have been correct if you had translated it as a V, but in Russian you sort of pronounce it kind of like an F. And so, it's that little X thing is a ch. It's like a chet in Hebrew. It's a guttural. It's Rachmaninoff. Rachmaninoff, I don't know. I mean, these things are the kinds of things that make people like me, critics, people who are supposed to do these things precisely, crazy, because it's bad enough I can't pronounce anything. I mean, I used to be able to spell it, so I'm done complaining. Now it has two F's. I think in my other Rachmaninoff talk, I still used a V. I may use either. I don't want to hear any crap, one way or another. None. It's one of those incomprehensible foibles that we simply have to just live with. But now, let's talk about the First Symphony. As we all know, this was a complete catastrophe at its premiere. It caused a nervous breakdown in its composer, who had to go through hypnotherapy in order to recover in writing his second piano concerto. And after that, he was never quite the same, because the First Symphony has a rawness and an edge and a sort of emotional, open, vicious, gloomy intensity that he never quite recaptured after that, except, quite interestingly, in the Symphonic Dances, his very last work, which quotes this symphony. In the first of them, the first of the Symphonic Dances, has a wonderful reference back to the First Symphony in a beautifully nostalgic passage. When the violins go, yada, ba-da-da, because that's the motto. The symphony has a motto. The motto is bum, 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 bum. That sounded terrible, didn't it? The motto is ya, ba, 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 bum, bum. That's the motto. And I could play it, but it's so much more fun to sing it. I've played this symphony a couple of times. It is enormous fun to play. It does have its crude moments, its difficult moments for the orchestra, particularly. It's not entirely practical. I remember a friend of mine in the cello section was playing the finale, was like, he didn't know what he was doing. It's all over the place. It's like this crazy cello part. And it is. It just is. You have to deal with it. And, the best recordings, you just play it, and that's the way it goes. But the symphony has a very strange kind of emotional ambience. You can see why it may have been a failure. I mean, Rachmaninoff's music is basically, wonderfully lyrical, but also kind of gloomy, And the symphony has a motto, like I just sang. That motto opens every single movement in one transformation or another. Which is one of the things that kind of makes it fun to listen to. And the motto had a superscript in the symphony, which is, vengeance is mine, I will repay. Ha, 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 ha. Right? I mean, what does that mean? What is he talking about? Because when you get to the end, the finale, which begins with a heroic fanfare version of that motto, and then goes on to this kind of like dance thing, like the Symphonic Dances in a way, and it becomes more and more frenetic until it it self-destructs with a tam-tam crash. Yay! And then there's this coda, and the coda is very, very grim. And the ending with crashing tam-tam. I mean, it's not the reason I love the work so much, but it was one of them when I was playing it because I really had something to do. You get to whack the crap out of the tam-tam at the end. But what is that ending? It's not a happy ending, but it's major key. It's not sad exactly. Is it the satisfaction of having gotten revenge on somebody? It's a strange work. It really is. But that, I think, for us today is what gives it a lot of its character. The very opening with the first presentation of the motto, it rises to this huge climax where it explodes in a major key that rapidly becomes minor. It does exactly the same thing that Mahler's Sixth does. That motto, the major chord that turns minor. That's what this does at the beginning of the symphony. There are a couple of textural issues. I'm going to talk about the most important of them, and that happens in the first movement. I'll play you an example of what it is. In the central development section, there is a fugato because all Russian first movement central development sections seem to need fugatos ever since sort of Tchaikovsky's Pathetique Symphony, which is, the exemplar of almost everything that came later. And Rachmaninoff does the same thing. And then the fugato rises to this furious climax, which stops dead, and then this chorale comes in, this Russian Orthodox chant. And the chant is, like everything Rachmaninoff wrote, very similar to the Dies Irae, which he actually quotes in the finale. The Gregorian chant about the Day of Judgment. Da, 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 bom, 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 from the Symphony Fantastique and all that stuff. That's in almost everything Rachmaninoff wrote. He was obsessed with it. And so the motto comes in, and I don't think yet there's a critical edition of this score. And, the actual score had to be reconstructed from the parts because after the disastrous premiere, the manuscript was lost or destroyed, and it was only put together much later. And so there's a question as to what happens during this chorale passage. And because I have a Naxos recording here, I can play it for you. And here's one version of it. So you can see the glockenspiel there doing the bell things. Most performances leave that out. And there's even more. There's like in the Lytton recording, which is quite good. There's cymbals and bass drum there too. It's a terrible part. It's like a boom, crash, crash, boom, crash, crash while that's going on. I don't understand it. I don't know if Rachmaninoff really wrote it or if Glazunov, who conducted the premiere, added it. It sounds to be way too much like Rimsky-Korsakov's Russian Easter Overture. I actually prefer not to have percussion there. I'll bet that'll shock you coming from me, because I think there are times when bell sounds are best done in a stylized way. There's some wonderful woodwind writing that, the woodwind's chiming away, and if they play it right, you understand that it's a bell sound, but it has, I think, just a more evocative, atmospheric, and kind of poetic character when you don't make it so literal. And that's just my feeling about it. But we'll you may have a different one, and that's okay too. So, what are the best performances of Rachmaninoff's First Symphony? Well, there are 4 that I think are the best. I am not going to sit here with a stack of so-so performances of Rachmaninoff's first and say, this is okay, that's okay. I know that because I'm only talking about 4, you will all chime in with the ones you like as well. But these are the 4 best versions. Trust me. There are other good ones. Others, like I said, Lytton was very good. Walter Weller's very good. There are a bunch of very good ones. But I'm talking about really the cream of the crop, and I only want to talk about those because this is a symphony that I feel very close to, and I just don't have any time for anything that I think is not, one of the best ones. So, first, Svetlanov. And the other reason to only use 4 of them is because, with Rachmaninoff, he only wrote 3 symphonies, and someone who does one of them well will probably do all of them pretty well. And so we're going to be naming the same version, the same conductors over and over and over again, which can get kind of tedious, like we did with the symphonic dances. You know who these guys are, the Rachmaninoff people, right? Anyway, Svetlanov's digital. This is on Exton. This cycle, it's Canyon Classics. It's now Exton, whatever it is. Some of you have already found it because we talked about it with respect to the symphonic dances. It's a smoking valedictory Rachmaninoff cycle from a great conductor in Russian music, and it's well worth having. Also, first class is this really classic set from the late Maris Janssens with the Leningrad Phil, which has just become the St. Petersburg Symphony Orchestra, St. Petersburg Philharmonic, which is in parentheses Leningrad because it was in the process of becoming St. Petersburg from having once been Leningrad. But this is a great Rachmaninoff cycle on EMI Warner. All 3 symphonies are superbly well done. The symphonic dances are fabulous. It's really one of the great cycles, and the first is a terrific performance. It has that sharpness and edge that this symphony has just got to have. I mean, even Eugene Ormandy, who of course recorded it, his performance to me is just too soft-edged. It's beautiful, but it doesn't have that, it's an early symphony. It's full of this sort of youthful fire, and you've got to go for the throat. I mean, it's vengeance. Vengeance is mine. I will repay, right? It's got to really have that gut-wrenching quality, especially in the coda. So, setting those 2 aside, there are 2 that I think are really even the best out of these 4. One of them is Leonard Slatkin with the Detroit Symphony. Now remember, he did a Rachmaninoff cycle for Vox that was first rate when he was very young with the St. Louis Symphony, some of the first recordings he did there. This is with the Detroit Symphony on Naxos. He's done this new cycle, which is absolutely first class. Now, I played you a little bit of it. He uses the Glockenspiel in the middle of the first movement. He had consulted Eugene Ormandy in coming up with his way to address some of the issues in performance that occur in this work, because, like I said, it was sort of young and immature, and Rachmaninoff would have nothing to do with it later in his life. So he added a Glockenspiel. It's not a crime. It sounds nice. You'll agree it sounds nice. I just would rather not have it there. But Slatkin nails the ending. He really grinds away at the coda, and I'm going to play it for you because it's just devastating, and this is what it really needs to sound like. Here it is. Hot stuff, right? I mean, that's how you end Rachmaninoff's First Symphony. But, however, there's one that I like even more, that I think is one of the greatest recordings of anything, and certainly the greatest recording by this particular conductor, Ashkenazy. Now, Ashkenazy's Rachmaninoff cycle I find somewhat curious because, the second was the one that got all the acclaim when it first came out. That performance doesn't impress me so much. It's not as well recorded as the others, and it's a good performance. And the thing about Ashkenazy is that he mostly gives good performances. He's a very solid musician, but I want something that is great. something that is outstanding, something where he really delivers a point of view, and he does that in this Rachmaninoff First Symphony. It is the greatest recording of Rachmaninoff's First I have ever heard. It blew me away when I first heard it, and it still does. It is fabulously recorded. You have the Concertgebouw playing like demons throughout the symphony, and best of all, he actually gets a tam-tam. You know, the Concertgebouw tam-tam is sort of an issue. Originally, supposedly, they used UFIPs from Italy. That's Union Fabrizi Strumenti Piatti e Tam-Tams. They make sort of interesting but odd-sounding tam-tams. And you can hear the old Concertgebouw tam-tam in like Haitink's Mahler. And sometimes you hear it and sometimes you don't. It's a very odd-sounding instrument. And you would think that they would like get one that sounds sort of better for certain works where you need to have real presence in the percussion section. And in the other performances in this Rachmaninoff cycle, they don't have it. They use that old tam-tam that you never hear. I mean, you don't hear it in the symphonic dances, you don't hear it in the Third Symphony, you don't hear it. It makes no sense to me at all. But in the First Symphony, it matters so much that Ashkenazi got them to go into their basement where they keep all their percussion equipment and dig out a tam-tam that really sounds great. And the ending of this symphony, the coda, he takes at a crawl. He slows down, as somewhat like Slatkin does, but even more so, I think. And it's just the most agonizing, fabulously menacing, threatening, terrifying apotheosis that you could ever ask for. And if the First Symphony doesn't have that, then there's just no point in bothering with it. I mean, it's where the whole piece is going. And however lovely and wonderful the rest of it is, and how much fun there is along the way, and there's a lot, if you blow the last 2 minutes, then the whole performance goes out the window as far as I'm concerned. It really does culminate in something. And it amazes me that so many conductors seem unable to culminate when the time comes. But Ashkenazi's is the performance that does it, and so that's the one I recommend as the first and best version of the Rachmaninoff First Symphony. You can give me your opinions too. I'm curious to know what you think, but that's my version of it, and I hope that you will keep on listening to this curious but magnificent piece of music. It's really very, very, very special. And sadly, Rachmaninoff never really quite wrote anything like it again. Thank you, and take care.